So oil just screamed past $100 a barrel. You'd think the most obvious move in the world would be to buy energy stocks, right? Well, the market didn't. And that weird gap, that disconnect between the price of oil and the value of oil companies, it tells us something really important about how markets actually work. In this explainer, we're going to crack that puzzle wide open.
All right, let's just dive right into the numbers because they're pretty wild. Since the end of February, crude oil futures just exploded, up over 40%. That is a huge move. But what about a global fund of all the big energy stocks? In that same period, it's up just 2%. You see that? This right here, this is the disconnect we're here to figure out. This is the mystery.
And honestly, it gets even weirder. Take a look at March 9th. The market's having a pretty good day, you know? 9 of the 11 S&P 500 sectors are in the green. So which two sectors actually fell? Yep, energy and financials. Just let that sink in for a second. On a day where oil prices are through the roof, the companies that literally pull it out of the ground and sell it saw their stocks go down. It's like the oil market was shouting and energy stocks just plugged their ears. What is going on?
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, let's start with the obvious answer. You know, the one that everybody was talking about. And then we're going to see exactly why it was so incredibly wrong.
So here's the simple story, the one that should have played out. It's pretty straightforward. Step 1, some geopolitical conflict heats up. Step 2, that creates fear about a potential supply shock. Step 3, all that fear sends oil prices to the moon. And step 4, well, you buy energy stocks. I mean, it's investing 101, isn't it?
And make no mistake, that fear, it was very, very real. Just look where the money went in a single week. Nearly $22 billion flooded out of US stock funds. And where did it go? It ran straight to so-called safer places, like money market funds and bonds. The market was absolutely running for cover.
But here it is. This is the detail that just blows up that whole simple story. Even the investors who were brave enough to stay in the stock market, they were still dodging energy stocks. They were rotating into industrials, utilities, metals, pretty much anything but energy. This is the heart of the puzzle.
So we're back to that big question. The fear in the oil market was obviously real. Investors were clearly reacting to it. So why on earth didn't the stocks of these huge energy companies seem to believe it?
Well, the answer wasn't on the nightly news or in some flashy headline. Nope, it was buried deep inside the market's plumbing in a tool called the futures curve. This is the secret that unlocks this entire thing.
So what is the futures curve? It's actually pretty simple. It's just a graph that shows the price of something, like oil, for delivery at different dates in the future. You can think of it as the market's own crystal ball, telling us what the collective wisdom thinks prices are going to do down the road. I love this analogy. It makes it so clear. Imagine a massive hurricane is headed straight for your town. Everybody freaks out and runs to buy a generator. The price, which is normally $500, shoots up to $3,000. That's the panic price. But think about it. Would you run out and buy stock in that generator company based on that one crazy week? No way. You know that as soon as the storm passes, the price is going to fall right back to normal.
And that's exactly what was happening in the oil market. It was caught in its own hurricane. I mean, check this out. A barrel of oil for delivery right now costs about $10 more than a barrel for delivery 6 months from now. That phenomenon has a name. It's called backwardation. And it's basically the market shouting from the rooftops that it thinks these crazy high prices are just a temporary storm that's going to blow over.
An energy analyst, Brian Kinsella, he just nailed it. He said, the market is betting it's logistical. What does that mean? It means the market saw this not as some permanent fundamental change, but as a temporary supply chain problem. A big headache, for sure, but a short-term one. Just like the generator shortage during the hurricane. And when you look at the numbers side by side, it's just staggering. You've got crude oil up 40%, and then you have the giants, Shell, BP, Chevron, Exxon, and their stocks have barely moved. It's because the stock market wasn't looking at today's panicked price. It was looking 6 months ahead at the futures curve.
So, what this all really comes down to is that different types of investors, they operate on completely different timelines. A good way to think about it is that there are 3 different clocks all ticking at once, but at very different speeds.
So on one side, you've got the oil traders. Their clock is set to right now. They're focused on today's crisis, buying and selling based on the minute-by-minute chaos. But then you have stock investors. They're on a totally different clock. They're worried about what a company's earnings are going to look like a year from now.
And then there's that third clock, the one with the slowest tick. That's the clock of the macro investor. This person is looking way out, maybe 3 to 5 years into the future, trying to figure out what the next economic cycle is even going to look like.
The master of this long-term view is legendary investor Stanley Druckenmiller. And what's really incredible is that way back in January, before this whole oil shock even happened, he said this: "Macro has been dead for 10 or 15 years, but it isn't anymore." He could already see past all the short-term noise to the huge tectonic shifts happening in the global economy.
Okay, so all of this might sound like a bunch of abstract market stuff, but trust me, it doesn't stay in the financial world for long. Let's trace how a shock like this actually works its way through the economy and ends up in your wallet. Okay, first up, the most obvious one, the gas station. US gas prices jumped over 10% in just 1 week. That's a direct punch to the gut that pretty much everyone feels right away.
So after the pump, where does it go? It hits everything you buy online, everything that gets delivered. Diesel prices often climb even faster than regular gas, and that makes it more expensive to run all the trucks, ships, and trains that move, well, literally everything.
And the final stop on this journey is your grocery bill. These disrupted shipping routes and high fuel costs mean higher prices for things like fertilizer. That, in turn, makes grain more expensive to grow, and that means the price of your loaf of bread goes up. So yeah, even if you never own a single stock, a big oil shock will always find its way to you.
So, after all that, what's the big lesson here? How can you use this the next time you see a crazy headline and feel that panic? Well, it boils down to a simple framework. Just 3 questions to ask yourself before you ever jump into a commodity panic. All right, here's your new toolkit for the next time this happens. First, what does the futures curve say? Is the market treating this like a short-term hurricane or a permanent change in the climate? Second, are the commodity and the stocks telling you the same story? If oil is soaring but stocks are shrugging, that's the stock market screaming that it has doubts. And third, and maybe most important, where is the smart money actually moving? Follow the real flow of capital, not the panicked headlines.
So, to go all the way back to the beginning, why didn't energy stocks follow oil to the moon? It's because the oil market and the stock market were looking at 2 completely different clocks. One was obsessed with the immediate panic, while the other was focused on the long-term forecast. The last big puzzle was oil. The real question for all of us is, what's the next one?